transforming banking business. Some of the topic will be covered is like AI plus blockchain, the future of banks, hype, hope, and reality, financial technology in 2025. And the honorable speakers who are here in this session to share their views are in the order of sequence. Mr. Vinod Kumar, the Chief Information Officer from Fino Payments Bank. Mr. Kumar, really thank you so much for your presence. It's a special presence which we are having, and you have been always supportive to us. Thank you so much. Joining Mr. Vinod Kumar, I have Mr. Atul Kumar, the CIO from Canara Bank. Mr. Kumar, this is your second time you have been part of the banking summit. Even last year you shared your views, and that was really wonderful. This time again, we are looking for an exciting panel discussion from your end. Joining the speakers, we have Lindsay Theratil, the head for Open Innovation and FinTech from Barclays Bank. Lindsay, a warm welcome to you on behalf of Sinex to the India DigiBank and Payment Summit. And we have Mr. Rajasundaram, the Director for Digital Labs from Explio Solution Limited, one of the innovative company Explio, and Explio has always been a partner and a supportive wall for the banking summit. And finally, our honorable panel moderator, Mr. Zulkarnain Kanjariwala, Head for IT and Applications from IDFC First Bank, who is going to be the moderator, the captain of the ship, and always been like an advisor to me for our banking summit. Thank you so much, Mr. Zulkarnain, for your presence once again.
Thank you. Thanks, Madam, for the introduction. So,
I request the panel members to go ahead, and if we can wrap up the session by 12:40 or 30 minutes of session, that would be really honor.
great. Welcome to my panelists, and today we are having a very exciting topic to be discussed related to the fintech and on and around the technology of fintech used in terms of the financial sectors. Yeah, sure. So, we are having a couple of topics and we are having a couple of landscape in terms of fintech, how it is managing their space in the FSI sector. So it is a kind of an exciting discussion we are going to have it here. So when I talk about the FinTech 2.0, so how come FinTech 2.0? There should be FinTech 1.0 also. So in that case, uh, when the FinTech 1.0 was launched, at that particular point of time, we were just talking about the technology and how we are going to serve the underserved region of our country in terms of financial inclusion. So FinTech 1.0 has achieved near about 23% of the population in terms of their reach by catering the requirement of the financial requirement. So, what are the underachieved goals by FinTech 1.0? So, there are a couple of them are there because couple of FinTech were offering a low cost solution, couple of FinTech were providing a kind of a no code, no implementation, cloud related implementations and all. Now, in terms of the FinTech 2.0, so I just wanted to know from the panelists, like Mr. Raja, this is the questions for you because you are belongs to that particular segment. So
Yep.
why we are reaching toward FinTech 2.0? Because there are so much things we have left behind in FinTech 1.0. So over to you, Mr.
Absolutely.
Raja.
Yeah, a good question. Let me start with this thing. I will share my experience, what we are doing for international bankers and India banks, and especially in terms of FinTech 2.0, and why 2.0 is emerging. While 1.0, as you said, as you rightly said, still a lot of banks are still in the kind of like old age. The main difference in terms of FinTech 2.2 is that the proximity to the customer. Because if you look at it, the onboarding cost of the customer or customer onboarding cost has come down a lot, and the channels have increased a lot. A lot of banks are looking at Alexa as a service to open their say banking account and operating using Alexa in a more secured manner, where it is voice plus other say security technologies. And moreover, if you look at it from the experience that what we have, the technology that is actually have been around the corner, now it's actually coming closer, or basically like a 5G. So systems which are looking good in terms of 3G and 3G were not actually they were not looking good in terms of 4G. And now in 5G, when it comes to picture, the response times are going to be nanoseconds. And if you look at it, the solutions, even the validation solutions, the banking solutions, they are all actually becoming more and more tight in terms of performance and security. And if you see, 5G is one such technology that is demanding a lot of real-time latency and high latency or low latency services that are going to be offered by the banks. So if you actually look at it, we as in Explio, we have been already working with one of the largest payments corporation, where we had initially had somewhere around like 200 transactions per second, 200 transactions per second payments, which is not good enough for them. Now we are targeting for somewhere around like 3,000 to 4,000 transactions per second. Massive increase. All because of 5G, all because of, especially because of the 5G coming to the play. And also the contactless payments, because the number of in the good old times, the number of transactions between the client and server are less, whereas now we are looking at pub/sub systems, we are looking at MQTT, we are looking at low latency protocols, which basically bring in the customer much closer, and AAML coming to the play. And if you look at it, IoT playing a big role in terms of payments. These are all what's forming the FinTech 2.0, in my opinion. And to summarize, it is the technologies that the customers expect the bank to provide, and the competition is raising. And when your competitor is actually going to the market with the better technology, and the customers falling for it, of course you don't want to be left behind in the race. So, and when you provide a much better, much faster technology, then obviously you become the banker of choice. And now every CTO, even the CXOs they have to be well versed with the IoT context, will be able to integrate with a lot of fintechs are actually integrating with banks. And the banks are no longer kind of brick and mortar. They are all actually, now we have been helping banks, Autumn Bank, a lot of banks which we are helping us, basically completely no brick and mortar, completely phygital banks. When I say phygital, financial digital banks, which are actually completely brick and mortar free, and they are completely API based services. And this is what is forming FinTech 2.0, in my opinion. Over to you.
So that's a very good insight you have given, Mr. Raja. So here there is one quick question just pop up in my mind. I think this question can be well answered by Mr. Vinod. So here, Mr. Raja has talked about 5G plan. We've talked about IoT. Talked about a couple of newly emerged technology is going to be here, right? So in that case, like how we are going to touch down our reach to the rural market in terms of the financial inclusion, according to your opinion?
So I'm supposed to answer, I think.
You can go ahead, Mr. Kumar. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, Mr. Raja gave a very interesting, perspective about the technology. I think in the technology I find a lot of jargons actually. Like another jargon now today I found was phygital, like financial plus digital. This was very interesting. I only submit that whatever we talk about 5G today in our country, I am sitting right now in Bangalore, in Koramangala, one of the, I would say, upcoming area where a lot of technology companies are also operating. 4G also does not work here. So I am only submitting here that at the moment, you go 30 kilometers away from Bangalore, even 3G will not work. And finally, you will have to run across post to pillar to get for an internet connection. So I really appreciate that, FinTech 2.0 is going to inroad into our lives, particularly bankers, in a big way. I appreciate that. In fact, we have been using some technologies which has given us a lot of inputs. For example, we have got an online, application and I would say approval for loans, which we have done for multiple personal loans and all, which is in collaboration with some 5 fintech companies, and those kind of products are also going on. But still today, if you see the landscape of banking, I will not talk about payment. Everybody today talks about payment, and the fact is, you have hundreds of payments apps. I don't know, one person does not really need so many payment apps. You have
Correct.
starting to banking pay to everybody is having. So it is really confusing, according to me. I think we really don't need any more. I would say the payment infrastructure, any more fintech companies. It is overcrowded. Yes, digital lending is something I understand, and this is the area where we really need more and more fintech participation. Agriculture revolution to IoT revolution, I think these are very realistic things. Today, I can, if I have given a loan to a factory, sitting at my bank or my branch, I can find out that whether that inventory is there or not, whether inventory is getting out of the factory, what kind of inventory they are maintaining, which was otherwise not possible. There were cases earlier, banking fraud cases, that you give a loan to a person who says that his house is the eighth floor of that particular building, and finally, once the loan gets default and you go and verify, you find that is only a 7-story building. So there is no question of eighth floor. This is the situation in banks. So IoT is going, and it's really helping us in a big way. Whether it is recovery, we have mobile apps. Our people are going with that apps, and we can locate that particular person, where his building is, where his land is, where his warehouse is. So I think revolution in terms of IoT technologies. As far as wave is concerned, we are talking about wave 1.0 to wave 4.0, and now we are talking about wave 5.0. Again, we are talking about human feelings in web. I think less talked about is better, but in days to come, we will be talking like this, and we can have some fragrance, of our choice while we are speaking to you. So great things are going to come. E-commerce to m-commerce, and now we are talking about d-commerce. So I think the evaluation is really fast, and it's really difficult to keep track of the things which are happening. We are talking about now biometric to biochips, basically. For example, in Sweden, chips are being inserted in human beings, and that is the factor. So the payments are happening through, human beings are going under their hand, and payment is happening. So it's really very exciting time for people like us to be in the technology space and in the banking sector. My only submission here is that while we can jump ahead and get and embrace a lot of newer technologies, the challenge still remains of our infrastructure. The infrastructure is really poor. I'll give you an example. Today, for now with Canara Syndicate combined, we are 10,000 plus branches. 40% of our branches are in rural semi-urban areas. Still, I am using some more than 300 branches still are on VSAT. I don't have, either SD-WAN or an internet connectivity or an MPLS connectivity for such branches. So I think there is a huge amount of, resources and infrastructure development is required when we really want to become truly digital. Without that, whatever we talk about revolutions in terms of technology, in terms of IoT, artificial intelligence, will remain more or less confined to certain geography and certain class of people. If we really want to go for a mass banking kind of scenario where everybody can become digital, the only way is to improve our infrastructure. So I will stress that the IT infrastructure is required in our country, whether it is power, whether it is bandwidth. I think it is really required. Today, like we say roti, kapra and makan, so today I will say it is roti, kapra and bandwidth is more important than anything else. So I think till we get into that, I think the fintech revolution will not be complete. So that is my initial views.
So here I'll just pick up a couple of points from Mr. Atul's discussions currently, what we are having right now, what we are going to have in future. So in that case, questions to Lindsay, right now we are having current challenges in our country or in our banking sectors in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the availability of the resources to cater our customer base. So if I want to 2025, so what exactly we are going to aim for 2025 to overcome such kind of actual challenges which we are facing as of
Thanks, Zulfika, and thanks to the earlier panelists. I think you played the lay of the land very well and talked about some of the challenges that do exist in India landscape. But if I look at the general trend and what the customers expect, definitely presence-less, paperless, cashless is the way to go. That's what your customers are expecting. At least the one who are exposed to Google, Amazon, Netflix. Those are the if those are the customers that you're trying to cater to, you will have to have a balance of where you want to go digital, where you want to look at some of those financial inclusion type of problems, but at the same time you will also have to ensure that the customers who are exposed to some of these advanced technologies have to be provided that. So and if you look at what we are seeing with respect to COVID, I think what it has taught us is that it's not the choice of channel that matters or the technology that we use that matters. What is ultimately important is how a business is able to leverage some of these various technologies or channels to meet a customer's requirement and solve customers' problem. That's the most important thing. That's the at core of whatever you as a organization have to offer. And here is where I feel fintechs have a crucial role to play. As a traditional bank who has been in the space, there are a lot of legacy technology issues that they tend to have to work with, which means that a lot of focus is not there in completely transforming the way they do things. But fintechs, I think, play a very important role here because they have actually come to this space with that as their main agenda, right? They are here because they understand that there are certain pain points that exist with bank, and they can help banks to overcome that challenge. So if I look at fintech 1.0 or 2.0, the way I look at it is that 1.0 is where fintechs came to the market and made banks and several other ecosystem understand what is possible, the art of the possible. That is what they uncovered for the bankers and for the other financial institutions. And the next 5 years, or the fintech 2.0, would be some of those actual implementations, large scale implementations. Right now it's mostly POCs, pilots, more experiments that's happening. But next 5 years, or the next or fintech 2.0 would be on actual implementations of that. We definitely want more presence-less, paperless, cashless. Infrastructure is important. I think governments are also realizing that. Government bodies, regulatory bodies are realizing that. And if you see them, if you see the policies that they're coming up with, are a very active, very pro-digital as well. The whole Digital India initiative that's going on, the UPI infrastructure that has come in, everything is ultimately to help the digitization that we are all aiming for. So I think fintech 2.0 or the next 5 years is essentially going to be a lot more adoption of fintechs and some of these emerging technologies to solve customer problems and meet their increasingly digital requirements.
Yeah, great, Lindsay, for the total insight of what is going to be there for next 5 years. So I just wanted to have a quick questions to Mr. Vinod. Like we have already faced the issue of COVID in last couple of months. So it's like we are having a learning from mistakes kind of a things we are having. This is a kind of a learning from pandemic. So does this kind of a pandemic is going to help us to grow drastically from niche to export in next 5 years, like up to 2025?
Thank you, Mr. Kevin, other panelists. I think you're taking some of the words from Lindsay. The way the banking used to be done in last 5 years, or maybe more than that, is actually changing. If you look at the traditional banks, now they are finding a lot of new technologies, new ways to deploy for cost effectiveness, fast rollout, and better customer experience. So earlier we used to have the branch banking, and we used to do a lot on a traditional banking. I would say a lot of input into this, and the action actually brought by the biggest disruption that happened to evolvement during fintech. Now, if you look at the next 5 years, a lot of banking way it has been done for the back end operations is going to change. The front end activity is going to be changed. Now we are hearing a lot of words about neo banking, invisible banking, and API partners. These are the things I think which is going to take lead in next actually 5 years. That is going to give a lot of growth in terms of the reach, the accessibility, and acceptance to each and every customer to the banking. So now what we can say that the kind of transactions we do today, it is going to be changing like the earlier days, the banking used to be the front ending. But today it is actually taking a total 360 turn where the banking is at the back end and the transactions and other requirements are like bank become a black box for the customers. They do the transaction, it goes through the bank and it has to be completed. Beyond that, they are not much bothered about how the bank, where the bank, what the bank is. Irrespective whether the branch is available or not, they just need the transaction to be completed very seamless the way they want at the time, whenever they want, wherever they want. So that is the mode it is actually getting changed. So now you look at the overall Indian customers, almost all the adults are having banking account. They are somehow linked with the bank, be it a account, a deposit, the credit card, remittance facility, or maybe an insurance, or maybe another mutual fund products or anything. Somehow most of the adults are actually linked some or some other with the banks. So that is actually taking a lot of changes in overall way the banking should be done. And if you look at maybe the way we are also looking at the banking in another 5 years, today we can see a lot of ATMs, large ATMs, and a huge number of ATM networks there, which is actually getting reduced. People move to post machine, people move to micro ATM. In Finland, we call it as human ATM. So actually, people move to ATMs or cards. From that, actually, maybe a scenario that can come where these are also getting obsolete in the market, where because the costly POS machine needs to be carried, a lot of other things needs to be done. From there, it may change to a smartphone that can actually do the entire activity or entire transaction for any customers. So now the entire banking may see a total change in another 5 years. The complete concept of conception of the conceptualization actually we had done in the banking industry years back, that will actually change. And bank will look at cost optimization, which is going to be an important factor because everyone needs to compete with each other. All the banks will actually try to put efficiencies in the digital areas. They may put a lot of investment in the investment to leverage the intelligence and automation. And then I think banks are already started reinventing or maybe doing a complete automation or disruption the way the back office is actually done in the bank, because that is one of the most costliest part and a time consuming part. So the changes are actually happening. So that's what I'm looking at from a banking for next 5 years time.
Yeah. So here, a couple of fintechs are coming up with an idea of implementing AI and blockchain, because these are the two terminology right now, which is in very, I would say, in a hype mode. So, is it going to create a hope in our banking and financial industry to kind of cater the requirement of completely invisible banking? So I think this question can be answered very well by maybe Lindsay or Raja. You can go ahead with that particular thought. So Raja, you can go ahead.
Sure, I will go ahead. The main, sure, yeah. So I see that blockchain, especially when it comes to Ethereum, Etherisk, and also Bitcoin, there's a lot of ecosystem have come up in a more realistic manner than the Japanese inventory initially put up the blockchain. Now it has become more Hyperledger based systems, more Etherisk based systems have come, which are directly contributing to banking as well, insurance. So I see that the non-repudiation, the risk of like not capable of hacking all the 1,000 systems where the transaction has come through as a kind of chain of transactions. So as you know, in the blockchain, every transaction has a block, and this block is actually added to multiple computers. So it's not virtually possible for a hacker to go through, at least as of now, the technology doesn't allow them to go through, hack all the transactions in order to gain the secret key or the access. So that's where we see that blockchain as a great vehicle for increasing the kind of like reassurance of security in terms of banking, in terms of financial transaction. And we combine that with, say, for example, currently the credit cards are 128-bit key encryption or triple dash encryption that we use in ATM. Those are now going to change, and we are going to have more AML-backed encryption and decryption algorithms, which are going to be multi-factor algorithms, not just two-factor, multi-factor algorithms, and they are not going to be easily hackable, because you will have your credit card. You will not have your credit card. You will have more your mobile, which is going to act as your credit card, and which is going to be much more. It's kind of like TPM40, which is actually the trusted platform module, which is what already like Knox, which Samsung already came up with. So these are the things that are going to come in FinTech 2.0. And basically, we see the open banking as one of the key initiatives, and open banking and open fin as one of the key initiatives for liberate the banks beyond the borders and ensure that the integration happens, just like the way in the insurance industry, the aggregations happen. We see a lot of aggregations, and open banking is going to open a lot of new channels, as I discussed in the previous one, like Google, Alexa. All these various different channels are not yet known in the banking industry. And you call your Alexa to speak to your banking executive, or to do a transaction, or using your IoT device to make some payments, secure payments by IoT-enabled security. Those are the things that we are looking at. And as Atul sir rightly said, it's basically the infrastructure may not be good right now, but if you see, everybody in India has a mobile, and they are able to access the banking system. And if you see, India is one of the countries where we have a lot of bandwidth. If you see, compared to if you go to Canada, or if you go to US also, you will not see this kind of like cheap bandwidth available. We are highly bandwidth crazy country, where we are getting high bandwidth at a very low cost, thanks to Troy. So I do not see the transaction, or I do not see the bandwidth as challenge. As rightly said, infrastructure is a challenge, but that's where the cloud companies are coming to picture. And if you don't want to invest on your infrastructure, go for a cloud. It's much safer now. And the banks are already, I see banks are already moving towards cloud, because they have the trust in their APIs. A lot of examples I can quote, but this is where the economy is going towards. This is where the banks are transforming. And I do not see that any of these things as a stopper for a bank to grow, neither the infrastructure nor the bandwidth in today's parlance. Thank you.
So because we are having a time constraint out here in terms of the finishing the panel quickly, so I'll just give some sort of a perspective over here, like which are the current challenges when BFSI sector is there, fintech is there, or maybe in terms of the government. So definitely, Atul sir has already covered a couple of areas, whereas Mr. Vinod has already given a couple of perspectives, and Lindsay has also given how the technology is going to evolve in next 5 years, right? So here we are lacking a kind of a platform where we are giving a fintech a free hand to whatever the innovation they want to do on that particular platform. So definitely, in couple of months back, RBI has also announced like they are going to provide a sandbox environment to a fintech to do the innovation by their own by using those platform, and then it will be kind of a beneficial and win-win situation for the fintech as well as the banking bodies like us. Okay, so here just wanted to know from the panel, like if I put together the survey, okay, amongst the bank. So I would say tech.
Hello.
So here in that case, like what is, I think that is,
Madhav, can you please go on mute?
Okay, I think the session has been ended, right? Thank you so much, Mr. Zulkarnain. It was really a wonderful session. Thanks for wonderfully moderating. It was really a pleasure having you. And also a kind of thanks to Mr. Atul.
Madhav, just can you give me a minute?
Yeah, Madhav is
Yeah,
not
please,
yet done. Yeah,
Okay, I thought Mr. Vinod Kumar has been left. Okay, I'm
Madhav,
really
just
sorry.
give me a.
Yeah, go ahead, Ali, please.
Okay, sorry, no issue. Madhav, just give me a minute. So I'll just conclude the discussion which we have touched upon over here. because I would say this is not a 30-minute session for such a kind of a beautiful topic in terms of fintech and collaborative approach of banking sector. So that's fine. We have tried to manage, but so many things left out here. So if I talk about like financial hub like Mumbai, Shanghai, Japan, Tokyo, New York, out of that, even top 20 financial hub, 8 are not belongs to the top 100 cities of the financial fintech like, list of fintech companies. So here, I would say we have to buckle up ourselves and make ourselves on the top of it. And right now, India is on 15th number. So how we are going to make it on top, because we are having a human resource. Though we are not having an infrastructure, and government is working on that. But definitely, I would say 2025 would be a kind of a game changer year for us. Hopefully, because there are so many plans was there by the government in 2020, but due to the pandemic, this is not is happening, right? So definitely, I would say 2025 would be kind of a year which is going to change the landscaping of the business as well as the banking sector and the fintech companies. So I would like to thank my panelists, Raja Sundaram, Nancy, Mr. Atul Kumar, Vinod Kumar sir, and yes, definitely Dr. Suresh Shan. Thanks for joining me over here, and thanks for your insight for this wonderful topic. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.